Hi everyone, welcome to another quick watch review. I'm taking a look at a new addition to my collection. Recently I've become more interested in vintage Seiko. Living in Tokyo, Japan, this is the ideal market for these watches, of course. And I think King Seiko is still a fantastic value for the money, and there are a lot of good examples to be found here. This King Seiko 5626 7000 day date was made in 1969, so it is a watch I wanted to pick up because it's a birth year watch for me. That's always fun to have a watch that it was made the same year you were born. It is a silver brushed dial. The case is 36 millimeters, which is the standard of the era, I think. And the case shape itself is obviously reminiscent of what many people today call the Grand Seiko 44GS case. Grand Seikos and King Seikos of this era both had this case. It is indeed a very attractive case and has obviously stood the test of time and is immediately recognizable as a King Seiko or Grand Seiko. This early model 1969 has the sealed monocoque case. So along with the medallion that you can see on the back here, this is not a screw case, it is one piece. The movement is actually removed from the front. There is a small screw down below it around 5 o'clock on the case in between the lugs that's used to release the movement. This example I bought from a store here in Japan in Ehime Prefecture known as Tachibana. Tachibana is a third generation watchmaker, and they specialize in vintage watches, not just Seiko of course, but other vintage watches like Rolex. But it's always nice to have Japanese craftsmen working on Japanese vintage watches. Gives it that extra special touch. And they do have an awful lot of stock. You can check them out online. Just Google Tachibana and Seiko, and you should be able to come up with them fairly easily. These are wonderful watches. Although I usually wear a larger watch on my 7.25-inch wrist, these do work quite well. Try to get out the wrist, you can get a quick look. Yeah, it doesn't look too small, I think, or too big, of course. Suits the time period well, in my opinion. Wears nice, I think, either casual or dressy, depending upon strap choice. This did come on a alligator print leather from the shop, but I decided to put on a vintage because I feel that kind of suits the period of the watch itself, being, something that's not terribly modern, has a little bit more, I wouldn't want to call it rustic or rough, but it has that kind of worn in look, the strap. The case itself has been refinished by Tachibana. It is polished and cleaned up quite a bit. The case and the crystal also has been cleaned up. The watch was fully serviced by the shop. That is their trade and parcel. They do full maintenance and overhauls on all the watches they do. And for me, buying my first vintage watch that is as old as I am, almost 53, I wanted something that was going to be known to be something I could depend on every day. So full service, gaskets, replacements, polished crystal, polished case. That suits me. I know some people, when they're looking at older watches like this, they prefer things to be original. And while original is wonderful, usability is even more wonderful for me. So that is why I picked up this particular example from this particular shop. I do intend probably to pick up some more in the future. I like to get, a no date, and I also like to pick up a Grand Seiko from 1969 if I can, depending upon what is available. I think it's worth taking probably some more looks at the case itself. The sharpness is still there, even though it's been polished. The polish itself is Obviously, very, very mirror-like, even though it's an older case and has probably got a little bit of smoothing, but still quite nice. You can see, for better or for worse, the colors I'm wearing right now, my shirt and whatnot, in the reflection quite easily. The hands and markers in the dial have a thin black line that runs down the center of them to make them a little bit more easy to distinguish. Some people may or may not like that, but I do find it really does help visibility. And I think frankly speaking, as I age and mature, I do not have glasses, but it is becoming a little bit more difficult to distinguish small dates and things like dial markers and hands on lighter colored dials. So I do appreciate not only the Seiko polishing of markers and hands to make them catch light and be more visible, but also the black line down the center also helps visibility quite a bit. I don't think I can get a better focus on this right now. But these are as marked high beat. High beat in 1969 meant 28,800 vibrations per second, not 36,000. You can find 36,000 vibrations per hour watches, of course, from that period, from both King Seiko and Grand Seiko, but this is 28.8. As I mentioned, it does have a day-date function on it. I find that to be, I do like it in general, and I think it's pretty cool to have on a watch of this age. That was not a common thing at that time, to have the dual wheels to do both the day and the date. The crown, of course, is signed with a nice little KS there. The medallion has been preserved rather well on the back. You can see the model number, etc. It's a really wonderful watch. I have several Grand Seikos in my collection. This is the first vintage Seiko I have, and I think I probably will be acquiring more. On this strap particular, it looks very similar to my my SBGV 005 44GS cased champagne dial 9F Grand Seiko. It has a similar vibe, but obviously a smaller 36 millimeter case. I have other 36 millimeters in my my Tudor Prince date days. Those are the only 36s I wear. When I was a bit younger and got into watch collecting, say 10 years ago, I would have never thought 36 would be appropriate size for me. But and I was never one to get on the more recent hype train that companies like Houdinki and other web blogs started to advocate very strongly for smaller sizes. But I do see a place for that size, particularly if it is period correct. Just as I like my Panerai in 44 and 47, they have a reason to be that big with the pocket watch movement and the history behind them. These watches have a reason to be the size they are for their era and the movement that was made to accommodate the features required at the time. So for me, a part of watch collecting and why I choose the watches I do is the purpose for which they are built. They have to be, there's an authenticity when the watch was made for a specific reason, and the characteristics for that reason and that time and that era are imbued in the piece, and they have significance and provenance of their own. It's not merely a fashion thing or a temporary thing. This is the way watches were made in the 1960s, 1970s, and they suits the design perfectly. It wears beautifully on the arm. Just as some other watches, like I said, like Panerai or others, they have a certain size for a certain reason, and it makes sense for that brand and for what it's trying to communicate. So I don't think either is right or wrong. It's about personal preference, about suitability, about occasion and time. I think there's reasons to have larger watches and smaller watches, dressier watches. vintage watches, new watches. I have them all. I love them all. They all have a place in my collection. They all have a reason. They all have a time to wear. And I guess that's part of the watch journey is finding new pieces, acquiring them, finding different ways you can enjoy them, their uniqueness, the provenance, the heritage, everything from vintage Grand Seikos to a brand new Rolex, or a nice Seiko diver, or even some more interesting affordable Chinese watches out there. And of course G-Shocks. They all have their place in my collection. They all can be enjoyed for different reasons. This one itself is something that I think, worn on a dressier strap like it came with, like a black alligator print or black leather. I think it can be a great dress watch on this strap. It goes great with t-shirts and jeans. Serviced properly like this one is, and I think this is running plus 6 seconds a day, which is pretty impressive for a watch as old as I am. It's a reliable partner. Just throw it on a strap and head out for your day and no worries. I wouldn't take it swimming, of course, but you don't have to worry about getting caught in a rainstorm or something. You can still enjoy it. It's well built, and when it's serviced with new gaskets and everything, you can trust these pieces as daily wearers. And that's one of the things I really like about Seiko in general, is it's a brand that I trust, especially of this period. I mean, Seiko was working really hard to beat the Swiss, and on several occasions they did in their testing. So they really did do the Japanese thing of going all out on quality and engineering, and being, as we say in Japanese, very komakai, very focused on the small details. And that's what Seiko excels at, and you can see it in an example like this that's over half a century old, that it's still a viable everyday wearer that you don't have to worry too much about, and still looks great. Has a lot of character, a lot of personality that's unique to Seiko, instantly recognizable as a Seiko. See the DNA in the modern watches. And I think being a King Seiko, these are still quite affordable. I think if you are interested in them, find the right dealer, like the one I mentioned. I got this one from Tachibana here in Japan. I do believe they ship overseas if you're interested. You buy a watch that's been taken care of by a watchmaker, you can trust it and enjoy it that much more. And that's what I'm doing this one. This one's getting a lot of enjoyment, a lot of wrist time. And I look forward to possibly adding some more like it to my collection in the future. And if you are thinking about a Grand Seiko KS, a 5625, a 5626, I think it's well worth looking into them, picking them up before prices get too crazy. They've already gone up quite a bit over the past few years as people become more aware of the brand, and I expect more of that in the same. So I will be enjoying this one. I hope if you find something you like, you enjoy yours. And in any case, keep your mind open to vintage watches. Wear them if you like them. If it's not for you, that's fine. But I think a well-serviced, well-maintained vintage watch will serve you for many years in the future and add that special certain character to your collection that other more modern watches won't be able to provide. So with that, I'll log off for today and bring you something new in the near future. Thank you. Cheers.